They forced her to solve calculus to humiliate her, but what she did next left the entire room speechless. Sarah Miller was never meant to be in that room, a quiet woman with no formal degree, no academic title, just a desk job and a mind sharper than anyone expected. They laughed when she walked in. They weren't laughing when she walked out, because Sarah wasn't just good at math, she was about to turn their own game against them, with legal genius. Sarah Miller wasn't the type of person you'd expect to see in a university lecture hall. At 34, she worked as an administrative assistant at a small insurance company, far from the prestigious world of academia. She didn't have a fancy degree or even a college background. What she had was a deep passion for mathematics, a passion she had kept hidden for years. While her coworkers talked about their weekend plans, Sarah quietly solved complex math problems during lunch breaks. At night, she'd stay up late, reading math forms and tackling problems that even PhD students couldn't solve. One day, everything changed. A program at Chicago University offered a chance to people with no formal education but exceptional problem-solving skills. Sarah had never thought she'd be noticed, but after submitting a solution to one of their online challenges, she received a call. Dr. Hayes, a university professor, was impressed by her work. They offered her the chance to audit advanced courses with a possibility of a scholarship. The idea of walking into that world, full of brilliant students, scared Sarah. Who was she to sit alongside people with degrees and honors? But something inside her pushed her to say yes. She had earned it, even if others didn't know it yet. As she stood in front of the large glass doors of the university's math department, Sarah couldn't help but feel out of place. She adjusted her beige blouse and nervously ran her hand through her light brown hair. She took a deep breath, stepped forward, and walked in. The world of math, the world she had dreamed of, was now within her reach. Sarah walked into the lecture hall, her heart racing. The room was full of students in expensive clothes, all focused on their laptops or phones. She felt like she didn't belong. Her beige blouse and simple slacks stood out in the crowd. People whispered as she passed by, some judging, some curious. She found a seat in the front, trying to ignore the eyes on her. A young man sitting next to her leaned away, as if her presence might somehow make him uncomfortable. Sarah just focused on getting through the class. The professor, Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, walked in. Her sharp, professional appearance made Sarah feel even more out of place. Dr. Blackwell was known for being tough and demanding. Sarah had read her textbooks and admired her work, but she never imagined she'd be in the same room. "Welcome to Advanced Calculus." Dr. Blackwell's voice was cold and commanding. "This course will challenge you to your limits. For those who don't belong here, there's always the option to leave." Her eyes briefly scanned the room, landing on Sarah. The message was clear. If you don't belong, you're out. Sarah's face stayed calm, even though she was nervous. She was here because she loved math, not because she fit the usual mold. She belonged, and she was determined to prove it. As Dr. Blackwell started her lecture, Sarah couldn't help but be fascinated. The way she explained complex calculus was beautiful. Sarah was taking notes quickly, her mind racing to connect the dots. She had seen these concepts before, but Blackwell's method brought it all together in a new way. Suddenly, Dr. Blackwell paused and turned to Sarah. "Ms. Miller," she called, her voice cutting through the room. "You seem to be following along well. Care to share your approach to this problem?" The room went silent. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't ready for this. The equation on the board was complicated, and solving it in front of everyone was terrifying. I was just following along," Sarah said quietly, trying to stay calm. Dr. Blackwell wasn't satisfied. "Well, since you're so comfortable, why don't you come up here and show us how it's done?" Sarah felt all eyes on her as she slowly stood up. Her hands were shaking, but she knew she couldn't back down now. This was her chance to show she belonged. She took a deep breath and walked to the board, the chalk cool in her hand. The equation seemed impossible at first glance, but Sarah could see the pattern. She knew exactly how to solve it. Sarah stood in front of the board, her heart pounding. The equation seemed overwhelming, but she knew it. She had solved problems like this before, late at night, on her own. As she worked through the steps, she realized something. This wasn't just about solving the problem. It was about proving to herself that she belonged here. The chalk moved smoothly in her hand as she simplified the complex equation, step by step. The class watched in silence, clearly stunned. Sarah's approach was different from what they expected. She wasn't following the usual methods. She was finding a quicker, smarter way. Dr. Blackwell, standing behind her, didn't say a word, but Sarah could feel her eyes on her, waiting for her to mess up. Finally, after what felt like forever, Sarah finished. She stepped back and turned around to face the class. The room was dead quiet. No one moved. Dr. Blackwell walked up to the board, her face unreadable. She scanned Sarah's work, looking for any mistakes. For a moment, Sarah wondered if she had made a mistake. But then Dr. Blackwell spoke. "That's impressive," she said, her voice colder than Sarah had hoped, but unconventional. Sarah's heart raced. Was this a compliment, or was Blackwell just trying to tear her down? Either way, Sarah had done it. She had solved the problem, and everyone knew it. The room buzzed with whispers as Sarah returned to her seat. She could feel the eyes of her classmates on her, but this time it was different. They weren't judging her anymore. They were curious. The young man who had avoided her earlier turned to her, a smile on his face. "That was incredible," he said. "How did you learn to do that without formal training?" Sarah shrugged, trying to act casual. "I just figured it out. I see patterns." Another student leaned across the aisle. "Could you explain that last substitution? I've never seen anything like it." Sarah felt a rush of pride. She had earned their respect. Dr. Blackwell stood at the front of the room, still staring at Sarah's solution. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but there was no mistaking it. There was respect there now, even if Blackwell didn't show it. "Ms. Miller," Dr. Blackwell said, walking over to her, "you've done something remarkable. Your solution was unexpected." Sarah felt a surge of confidence. "Thank you, Dr. Blackwell." "Don't get too comfortable," Dr. Blackwell replied, her voice cold. "But I look forward to seeing how you handle the rest of this course." As the class ended, Dr. Hayes walked over to Sarah. "What you did today was incredible," she said, smiling warmly. "I think it's time we talked about you joining the program formally." Sarah nodded, still processing everything. She couldn't believe how much had changed in just a few hours. As she left the lecture hall, students who had ignored her before now nodded at her in respect. One even stopped to invite her to join a study group. It felt surreal. Sarah knew it wasn't over. There would still be challenges ahead, and not everyone would accept her. But for the first time, she felt like she truly belonged. Sarah stepped into the courtroom, feeling the eyes of everyone on her. She was here to prove herself, not just as a mathematician, but now as a legal mind. The case before her was complex, involving years of legal battle, and Sarah had spent hours reading through the documents, trying to understand every detail. Despite her lack of formal law training, Sarah's mind had worked like it always did with numbers, finding patterns, making connections, and identifying flaws. As the judge called her name, Sarah stood up, her hands slightly trembling, but her focus sharp. She glanced at the opposing lawyer, a seasoned attorney with years of experience, and then at the jury, who seemed skeptical but intrigued. She took a deep breath and began to speak. Her argument was clear, logical, and powerful. She pointed out details the seasoned lawyer had missed, used legal precedents no one expected her to know, and showed a deep understanding of the case. The jury listened closely, and the opposing lawyer started to look more and more uncomfortable. The judge, too, seemed to take notice. Sarah wasn't just defending a point, she was dissecting the law itself, offering a new perspective that none had considered. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel a small victory. She was playing a game she wasn't supposed to know the rules of, and winning. Her argument was clear, logical, and powerful. She pointed out details the seasoned lawyer had missed, used legal precedents no one expected her to know, and showed a deep understanding of the case. The jury listened closely, and the opposing lawyer started to look more and more uncomfortable. The judge, too, seemed to take notice. Sarah wasn't just defending a point, she was dissecting the law itself, offering a new perspective that none had considered. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel a small victory. She was playing a game she wasn't supposed to know the rules of, and winning.